And then we have the last speaker, and you have 90 seconds to respond. Okay? And so, let me introduce Colonel Mike McCalister. He is a retired U.S. Army colonel, entrepreneur, and businessman, university instructor of graduate business management, and conservative U.S. Senate candidate. Colonel McCalister has 33 years total military service in the Army National Guard, Reserves, and active duty in both enlisted and commissioned officer ranks. He served as the Deputy Chief of Training, Doctrine, and Education at the United States Special Operations Command, which leads Department of Defense planning against terrorists and trains and oversees Special Operation Forces worldwide. Colonel McCalister has served on strategic Pentagon committees, including the Executive Steering Group for the Training and Transformation Initiative, which directed the transition of the Department of Defense into a 21st century fighting force focused on the global threats facing America today. Colonel McCalister is a university instructor and served as the lead faculty in a global MBA curriculum, teaching global business operations, strategy, and policy. He holds a BS in agriculture from Southeast Missouri State University, PhD in management from the Union Institute in Cincinnati, and is a graduate of the Command and General Staff College, the Army War College Defense Strategy Curriculum, and the Air War College. Additionally, he has completed the Harvard University program on senior executive leadership. He has one son, who he raised as a single parent, and his father, a World War II veteran, live in Bradenton, Florida. Colonel McCalister, please.
Test me here since I'm going to be 60 this year. I think this moving over there and sitting down is just a sin. Alright, we're going to try to have a little fun today. I'm not going to stand up here and talk about myself a whole lot. We're going to talk about our country and the serious threats we face, and talk about how we're going to maybe make things better. But what a great looking group of Americans, and as I look around I can understand why the liberals are getting concerned. You guys are already suiting up and getting out there. As she said, my name's Mike McCalister. I'm God-fearing, American-loving, flag-waving, gun-owning, conservative businessman. I want to recognize a few groups here today, the ladies, and I do this everywhere I go, but it's just, as you travel the state, the role and leadership you're playing is just phenomenal. 9/12 leaders, Tea Party leaders, REC leaders, obviously the women's organization leaders, and you're really, really making a tremendous contribution. I was going to recognize the seniors, but I don't see any. But you're our national heritage. You built this country with your blood and your sweat and your tears, and we simply can't let it get away, and we got to restore America to the greatness you created and keep it there. And I want to recognize all of our veterans and our veterans' families. And without question, you're our nation's heroes. And you put it all on the line just for us all to be here. You know, America is still the world's greatest country. There's no question about it. And we're the last true global military power and protect our freedom and democracy around the world. And as a fairly recently retired colonel, I'm proud to report to you that we still have and will continue to have the very finest young seamen, airmen, soldiers, and Marines of any country on the planet protecting us, and we got to make sure Washington gives them everything they need to fight and win and survive in battle. You know, Americans never need to go anywhere on the planet and hang their head. This country, with its most precious blood, has saved the free world more than once. And I think we're all tired of a president standing on foreign soil, bound to Muslim kings, apologizing to the world for who and what we are. And that's going to end in 2020. You hear people say no one likes America anymore. I have graduate students, they're in their 20s and 30s and 40s. And they'll say, nobody likes America anymore, blah, blah, blah. So I'll go up to the blackboard and say, well, let's list the 10 countries everybody likes. Guess what? They can't name any. And then I like to refer to a British gentleman who said it most eloquently once. Perhaps the best way to take measure of a country is how many people want in and how many want out. Yes. You know, I think the events of the recent weeks have sent a clear message to the world that any country or enemy or threat that wants to try to be a thorn in our side, you feel lucky today, you bring it on. It doesn't matter how long it takes or how much it costs. We will hunt you down and we will eliminate you. I want to talk for a minute about this race next year. We got one statewide race, U.S. Senate. Now, you know, Florida has 120 part-time state house members and 40 part-time state senators. But we only have 2 U.S. senators. And they have a very unique role that in many ways is totally separate from what we need at our state, local, county levels. We need everyone. But these guys are in many ways our last line of defense of what comes out of the executive office of the president. You know, our state and local officials are very, very seldomly involved in national security, national defense, foreign policy, U.S. vital interest. But when we look at the U.S. Senate, only the U.S. Senate confirms our senior military leaders of full colonels, generals, and admirals. And for me, if you're going to decide if someone should be a colonel or a general and admiral, I think you need to really know what they do. And only the U.S. Senate confirms our ambassadors and our senior State Department officials. And this is our forward presence. If you don't have serious training and education and some experience in the collaboration and integration of all of the U.S. operations globally and around the world with our vital interests, our foreign policy, and our military operations, I'm not sure you're the best qualified to decide who should be senior State Department officials and ambassadors. And only the U.S. senators confirm our treaties. And folks, these commit us not just politically, but economically and militarily. And a lot of the problems we have in this country right now go back to these treaty commitments, and we can start with Libya. And only the U.S. Senate confirms the presidential cabinet. And if you look, there's a close alignment of the cabinet positions and the committees in the U.S. Senate, and there's a reason why. And when we look at the cabinet, that's 39 guys right now that he has put in there as czars that need to go away. It's unconstitutional. We got to get back to having a cabinet. And only the U.S. Senate confirms our federal judges, and I think we need to do a lot better at that. I want to identify for a minute these serious threats our country's against. Right now, the whole buzzwords in the media and politics is spending and balance the budget. Yes, this is a serious problem, but my friends, it's going to take a lot more than cutting spending in this country to save it. Yes, we got uncontrolled. When I look at the internal threats, we have uncontrolled spending by the federal government. But we have union management not accepting the realities of a competitive global world, liberal judges making up their rules as they go, giving our country away, a failing education system that's not keeping up with global education, federal government that doesn't recognize the rights of our states and our citizens, restrictive laws and lawsuits that restrict American entrepreneurship and productivity, communism still working within our country to destroy the family values, illegal immigration coming across, and it's a lot more than just farm workers, terrorism, money laundering, drug trafficking, a radical Islamic aggression in our schools and our textbooks and our courts, and of course growing black market for phony IDs and even voter registration, and the liberal element in our country that doesn't want to face any of this. Externally, unfair trade practices by global countries such as China and Brazil, stealing patents, phony currency devaluation,